Hello there and good morning. Now, the UK government is planning to introduce a new digital currency to do away with cash, just like Bitcoin, and it's inevitably been dubbed Britcoin. As per usual, please like, subscribe and comment below. And why not buy a mug with my mug on it? Now, the Treasury is drawing up plans for a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. It's akin to Bitcoin and uses blockchain technology. And UK is not the only one looking at a central bank digital currency. The Chinese have been looking at it for up to 10 years, I think now. The EU, as I've said in a previous video a few months ago now, are looking at it as well. And the US Fed is also looking at a CBDC. Now, Bitcoin and the like are open to algorithmic mining so that anyone can get a computer and start mining for Bitcoin to find themselves some money. The trouble is it's not as easy as that. It's very technical, takes a lot of computing power and can take a lot of energy. And at current energy prices, it's actually more expensive to mine for Bitcoin than what you get out of it. And some people just do it for fun. So one of the things that to bear in mind is that Bitcoin mining and other cryptocurrency mining is actually causing a bit of global warming, or so they say. Now, Britcoin would be different. It would be under central bank control. It'd be under Bank of England control. You wouldn't be able to mine it. The only people who would mine it would be, of course, the central bank, the bureaucrats in there. Also, Britcoin would be directly linked to sterling. It wouldn't be free floating like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are. It would be under the control of the Bank of England, tied to sterling, and therefore only the Bank of England can dictate its value. Now, one of the ways to tempt people in they're looking at is actually giving people interest on the Britcoin they hold. That means that they will be tempted to go to the Bank of England, get a crypto account so they can have Britcoin and then earn a bit of interest on it. And then over time, what we'll see is that people will then replace their cash cards, their credit cards and their debit cards with Britcoin. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'm not so sure. But does that mean that in the end everyone will have a bank account with the Bank of England? Bear that in mind. And then the Treasury is hand in glove with the government and the Bank of England. And they'd all have that data. And governments never misuse data, do they? Now, one of the big selling points to this, to you and me, the people, is this concept of helicopter money. Now, helicopter money is what they dubbed this quantitative easing as. Do you remember 2008, the credit crunch? What they had to do was bring liquidity to the markets. And the way they did that was the central bank hovered over the banks and dropped money on them to buy all their bonds, their gilts, or equivalent, their US Fed debt, and put it inside their central bank, where they've created a load of fictitious money and bought all those bonds with it. And all that money went into the markets and freed it all up. And the idea was ungum it and would save the day. The trouble is that, together with low interest rates, was meant to solve the credit crunch and get rid of the problems. And the question I've got is, why are we still doing exactly that, maintaining quantitative easing, i.e. helicopter money, and also low interest rates 13 years later? Did it actually solve anything? But that's another issue. Now, this helicopter money lark, when they did it, the only people it really benefited was the bankers. Yes, we all know that, don't we? No one else benefited from it. They just got loads of debt and had to pay back the national debt. Well, we're trying to pay it back. So the bankers got the money and the rest of us got diddly squat. Now, Britcoin is being pushed on a different basis. The idea being that if the Bank of England ever did quantitative easing again, instead of dropping the helicopter money on the bankers, it would drop it into your Bitcoin account, your Britcoin account, sorry. So it would go direct from the Bank of England vault straight into your Britcoin account so you can spend it. Sounds good, doesn't it? Free money, what's not to like? But how many Britcoin accounts can I have? And can my company have one as well? Or if I have more companies, can they have it? Then we can all get lots and lots of helicopter money. Yeah, you'd think that'd be a bit unfair. So I wonder if they're going to be limited in some manner or other. And when it comes down to helicopter money, just handing money out to the people, do you really think they're going to do that? Really? Now, the trouble is with this, on an everyday level, Britcoin would have to be as easy as a debit card, credit card, or cash to use. Otherwise, it's going to disenfranchise some people, the elderly and people who can't quite grasp technology, if it's anything more than putting a PIN number in. You see, get my drift? It's got to be easy. Also, if you've only got Britcoin available, how do you pay your window cleaner? Because it's all digital. It's not cash, it's digital. Britcoin is digital only. They'll need some sort of payment device on them to take your payment. And all this is, of course, tracked. Will that make cash then an attractive proposition for some transactions? Remember, some people have other needs, whether it be some form of nighttime entertainment or some form of brain expanding experiences, if you get my drift. And as time goes on, cash will be used by fewer and fewer people if Britcoin takes off. And that means that people who churn cash for Britcoin back to cash and back to Britcoin again will be under the scrutiny of the law enforcement people for not operating their lives in an expected manner. And remember, everything is tracked, so would even trying to churn cash back and forth be trackable and easily dealt with? And it's also a tax collector's wet dream, isn't it? Fees and taxes can be applied to transactions at the flick of a switch. Now, as I understand it, high street banks won't hold Britcoin. It will all be done via the central bank, the Bank of England. So as people switch their money into Britcoin, so they convert it from sterling into Britcoin, does that mean that the banks will have less money in their vaults? And under fractional reserve banking, will they be able to loan out credit cards, business loans, and all the rest of it, including mortgages, as they do today? Will they become more expensive and fewer and far between? Will high loan-to-value mortgages become almost impossible to get? And another thing to bear in mind is how many banks would actually survive that? Would we end up with far fewer banks or far fewer bank branches, or only certain people having bank accounts for these sorts of things? And would the international foreign exchange markets really treat sterling and Britcoin as the same thing at the same value? Because they'll open up all sorts of markets. The city will trade and bet on anything. But it's the privacy issues and the constant yearning by the government for more control and information that should worry us all. Would it end up being tied into things like Boris Johnson's new health push, where he's going to try and help people out and reward them for being good with their lives, having lots of exercise, eating the right sorts of things? Would this be tied into that? Would you get rewards via Britcoin for doing that and having a nice healthy lifestyle, not transferring your money into untrackable cash? That's another thing to bear in mind. Could we then effectively be fined for not running that perfect lifestyle? Could it all be tied into your health status? Maybe this new vax pass, maybe. And that could morph into a general health pass. So you'd have to have the proper vaccinations, etc., to get rewards. Is that how this would work? And on the vax pass, just as an aside, everyone's looking in this country and saying we don't want a vax pass, or we do. But they're doing this in every country around the world, and there's bucket loads of countries who are now signing up to a vax pass in one form or another. They're all at it. They're all different. Now, if you need a vax pass to get into a venue, like to watch an orchestra, to go in to watch football games, big theatres, say you're from France and you come across to this country, how will you be able to get into those venues? Will you have a vax pass? How will that work? If all these countries are going to have vax passes, in the end, they've all got to be the same, haven't they? They've all got to be acceptable around the world. Bear that in mind. It's not just a domestic issue. This is a worldwide issue. It's a global issue. Now, on these vax passes, the really big question that I've asked before is, has anyone ever said that these are a temporary measure? In everything else, they've always said this is just until the end of that. You know, and even the Coronavirus Act has got an end date, although that can be stretched on. It has got an end date in it. So do most statutory instruments about it. They've got end dates in there or ways to stop it. Has anyone ever said that the vax pass will be a temporary, short-term measure, that it will be lifted at some stage in the future? I haven't heard that at all. As far as I'm concerned, unless they say that, this is a permanent thing. Now, back to Britcoin. Will we be able to borrow Britcoin to buy things like cars and houses? Or will it only be allowed as long as your life is in order? So, is Britcoin a good thing? Will it lead to more government intervention and control of our lives? Is it something we want? Or is it just a way of keeping people away from the growing number of independent cryptocurrencies? Do they want to bring people into a fold under an umbrella of a single entity instead of having them going off after all these other cryptocurrencies? So what's your opinion on Britcoin? Please like and comment below.